This is the Vanguard interview series, and we've just been joined by Paulette Jordan, the Democratic nominee for U.S. Senate, running to represent the state of Idaho. Thanks so much for coming on the show, Paulette. How's it going?
It's going good, Gavin. Thanks for asking. We're in the final swing of our campaign, and it's been pretty wild. We are, it's tough because we're seeing more spikes in cases, yet we have so many young people who are very enthusiastic about participating and getting the word out. And it's just, it's a tough balance to keep, keeping people safe while trying to alert folks to how important this election is.
Yeah, absolutely. It's obviously been a untraditional, election cycle with COVID and the lockdown and, change in traditional campaigning methods, especially for, more grassroots style campaigns. I was wondering, given the fact that we saw the presidential candidates face off in their final debate last night, have you had the opportunity to debate your opponent at all this election cycle?
I wish. Here in Idaho, it's different. Republicans like my opposition are really good at hiding from the media, hiding from the people. They, while they're not doing their job, whether near or far, it makes it pretty challenging to get them in a space to hold them down and hold them accountable for the issues or the problems that they cause.
Gotcha.
So my opponent certainly hasn't showed up for any debate that we've offered to do.
That's unfortunate. I think obviously the people deserve to hear that, especially since he's running for his third term. You would think that people in Idaho would want to know how their senator is, evolving with the times. And you're running to replace Senator Jim Risch, who's the chairman of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, and he's represented Idaho in the Senate since 2009. Could you just contrast your, record or your political philosophy a little bit with the current sitting senator, and especially, when it comes to issues like COVID and the rhetoric on that issue, which has proven to be so important in this election cycle?
Yeah, my opponent is, I'm 40 years old, by the way, Gavin. I don't know if you consider that young or old, but this man has, my opponent has been in office more than my entire life here on this planet. For over 44 years, he's been around a while, but having been appointed after appointment and being wealthy and having certainly money in his pocket and being a Republican in a red state like ours, it does make it easier for people like him to get away with what they do behind closed doors. For myself, I'm Idahoan, born and raised. I'm Indigenous. I'm a mother, 2 sons. I'm a businesswoman. I'm nationally recognized as an acclaimed business leader, environmental leader. I've worked with all communities, both Republican and Democrat. I'm really nonpartisan. I'm a gun owner. I come from an ag community with ag background and a ranching background. My parents and grandparents, my grandparents, I should say, on both sides are veterans. They've served this country even when they couldn't even vote in this country. But they always fight for the land. We're very independent out here. We believe in economic sovereignty. Being raised as a strong woman myself, my grandmothers were women chiefs. We believe that women can lead. Unlike my opponent, who is against women having equal rights, I was raised to believe that we are rightfully so. We should be equal to men, and that we should protect the environment. We should be a voice for nature. My opponent doesn't believe in protecting the environment. He is very well known for selling off public lands and speaking only for corporations and whatever best lines his own pockets. And because we're grassroots, my campaign is wholly driven by the people. We aren't accepting any super PACs, dark money. This is the very notion that we stand for, which is taking dark money out of politics, versus my opponent, who is primarily funded by super PACs and dark money. Over 95% of his money comes from dark money. And because there's a vast difference, between my campaign and his, from how we're funded to what we stand for, who we support, it's night and day. So it's very clear for people to make an easy decision. I will work with all folks, whether they're Republican or Democrat. And I've shown that in my 2 terms in the State House. I've shown people what it looks like for someone who runs as a Democrat to work with Republicans and be effective there. I've been effective at the national level, working with national Republicans and Democrats. And so it's nothing new to me. I think the difference here is, aside from being pro-woman, pro-environment, and definitely pro LGBTQ, and making sure that we're looking out for education, healthcare for all. These are major differences that we're not seeing in our Republican Party here in Idaho, because they weren't with us when we fought to expand Medicaid. They weren't with us when we're fighting for teacher pay and we're fighting for our K through 12 programs and higher education. These are all issues that really work against them. And for some reason, they feel that this is not good for everyday Idaho citizens to have, which is remarkable because you don't have to be a Republican or a Democrat to believe that these are good things for everybody, or believe that public lands for all of us should be protected for our rights to hunt and fish. And, so it's just unfortunate that they're driving wedge issues, into these conversations versus sticking to the issues and the policies. But this is the state that we're in, and we have to fix it for so many good reasons.
Absolutely. I noticed you mentioned your pro-environmental stance as well as mentioning protecting public lands. And I was just wondering your perspective as an Indigenous person. I read that you previously served on the Coeur d'Alene Tribal Council. And I was just wondering, what experiences you would bring as a Native American to the United States Senate, and especially when it comes to those issues of environmental protections and, public lands or native lands and reservations. How does that color your perspective on those issues?
Well, it actually brings a wholly different perspective than what we're hearing right now with the lockstep, where we have Republicans and Democrats not working across the aisle. We're seeing less and less of that. I'm sure there's people who can mark down the few pieces of legislation that are truly bipartisan, and that's unfortunate. But that also means for me, that's why we should step up and run, and as the first peoples of this land, bring a different style of leadership, a new kind of voice that's never been heard from in terms of what we represent. And one of my greatest mentors, and I have so many good ones to speak of, but one who has served in the U.S. Senate, Senator Ben Nighthorse Campbell. He's Indigenous himself, and he served as a Republican many years ago. And he's been a good friend, business partner, elder mentor of mine. And he's really paved the way for many of us. But he brought a good voice to try to balance everything out. For myself, being the first Native American woman to the U.S. Senate, really, it offers us an opportunity to speak for not just the environment, public lands, but our children's future. We often think in a very holistic sense, where we're not just talking about tomorrow or today. We're talking, intergenerational impact. So we're thinking for the next 7 generations, and that's really needed in today's society. Unfortunately it's a value that, or even a principle that is not adhered to when it comes to whatever impact you're making today. That impact, whoever is making these decisions, that they understand that whatever decisions they're making today, that's going to influence, many generations down the road. And people that I see today, including my opponent, they're only thinking for themselves and how they can make as many gains today, and that's it. I've heard my opponent speak to the environment and the climate crisis we're in, and he actually verbatim or very literally said that it's up to the young people to make these changes, not him, while he's in this public office, which is another reason why I have no idea why he's running again. But why would you run again and then just hand off that responsibility to be accountable to this planet, to the next generation, versus doing something yourself? So instead of us taking action today, he's just passing the buck forward. But again, I see this in many other leaders in this country where they're just passing that buck forward. They want to rape our lands and take all of our resources for themselves. And like many corporations before my time, they've done this in our state before, where mining companies come through and they would ravage the natural resources. They would pollute our waters, pollute our land. And, and 100+ years later, we're still trying to clean up their mess, the mess that we didn't create. But this is all over the country. And this is nothing new, even on this continent. That's happening on every continent all over the globe. And Indigenous peoples are cleaning up the mess of all these corporations. And I'm a voice of that. I'm a part of that structure where we are trying to clean up the mess of the corporations that we're facing today. That's why, we are stepping up now into leadership positions, running from local to national level to ensure that, we're holding people accountable. I have to hold my own opponent accountable. He's pretty snaky and hard to keep a track of, but, we definitely have to do our part and make sure people see, hold them up to a light and show them that this type of corruption has to stop, and it ends here with us. But also continuing to be a voice for what's right. That's really our challenge today.
Absolutely. Well, it seems like one of the major issues that continuously prevents voters in red states like Idaho from voting blue is their belief that the Democrats or the left more broadly are for over-the-top gun regulations and gun control that oversteps the bounds of what the federal government has the right to do in relation to people in their Second Amendment. And I noticed on your website, on the policy platform of your website, which I'll pull up here in a second, that you have a pretty firm commitment to the Second Amendment, maybe a little bit more, so than your average Democrat, or stronger language than you would find on your average Democrat's website. Could you just speak a little bit about your opinion on guns and how that might differ from someone in the Democratic mainstream?
Well, I'm from rural America. I'm North Idaho, where our indigenous communities, we're definitely all about our guns. Oh, can you still hear me?
Yeah. I just pulled up your website. I was gonna go to your Second Amendment section.
Yes, so we are very pro Second Amendment out here. We definitely love our rights to hunt and fish. We consider that part of our sovereignty, and because it's so important to us and passing on this part of our heritage to our following generations. My sons hunt and fish, and they also have guns, and we definitely promote, however, responsibility and being accountable. So it's definitely a part of our culture here. But the most significant function is that we support these rights. I firmly support the Second Amendment, and want to make sure that people understand that you can be a Democrat and still be pro-gun rights. And but the same thing also goes with anything else in the U.S. Constitution. And once we swear our oath, we have to uphold it in every single sense. So yeah, that is definitely a part of my platform, making sure people understand that the reason why I am is because I'm not only a gun owner, certified and trained enhanced carrier, but this is how I grew up. This is the way I was raised, to be a responsible gun owner. And I find that to be very important, to be, a voice for our community in such a way, because many people think that just because you're a Democrat, you're going to take their guns. And that's a Republican ploy that they've upheld for so many years now. And that's never really been the case. I mean, I didn't see Obama trying to take our guns away. I didn't see, previous other Democrats trying to take our guns away. The only one I saw trying to take our guns away was Reagan and other Republicans. So I don't see that as an issue. But if folks, like the Republican Party here in Idaho, for example, they are certainly trying to make this their issue. But owning guns and being pro Second Amendment, that is not a partisan issue. That should belong to both sides of the aisle.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I mean, especially in a state like Idaho, which is a more rural state, I totally understand, that position. And I think you're accurate too in pointing out that there's this caricature of the Democratic or leftist position, which is that they want to take your guns. But in reality, most of the kind of regulations that have been advocated for are pretty reasonable, I would say, increasing background checks, stuff like that. So yeah, thank you for speaking to that. And I hope that it's an issue that, people can come together on a little bit more instead of being so divided on. Because like I said, I don't really think that most Democratic voters want to come forcefully take people's guns. Another issue that I wanted to ask you about was healthcare. We saw last night at the debate between Biden and Trump, Biden or Trump trying to caricature Biden's healthcare public option proposal as, socialized medicine. Where do you fall on the issue of healthcare? Do you support Biden's, public option idea, or would you be more in favor of a single payer healthcare, or where do you fall on that?
Well, the problem with Trump and any Republican that tries to fall in line with that is, for the last 4 years, he's never presented any option for healthcare. They've never created a plan. So the reality is we have to either formulate a better plan or just continue working away at the Affordable Care Act, which is our current healthcare plan. And I've always said that healthcare should be affordable and accessible. But there are so many ways that we can improve the ACA, which is making sure that it's primarily patient focused versus profit driven. And that's the problem with our healthcare today. And it's not data driven either. So without collecting the data, how are we able to build a real healthcare plan that serves the people best? And of course, we should be driving costs down and making sure that we keep our healthcare system and practice transparent, which would not only drive drug pricing down, but allow people to compete in this market. And I'd like to see competition, because when you can compete in a market like this, you can make sure that everything's affordable. And of course, even keeping these companies accountable. All that's very important.
So you're not in favor of a single payer system then, I would take it, given your stance on the market?
I think what Biden is promoting with the public option is good. What's nice about that is that it does give people more options, and I prefer that. I want everyone to have options. We do want to get to the point of where we're keeping healthcare affordable and accessible, and if we can promote a plan that's mobilizing towards a single payer, that may be the solution. Because I'm wondering, after we're on the public option, if more people will see that the government option is much better than what they're seeing on the competing market. So, that's really up to us being able to collect that data. And when we get down to that point, I think then we can make a much stronger data-driven solutions opinion and give a better response.
Yeah, interesting. Okay. Well, is there anywhere else that people can go to learn more about your platform other than your website, pauletteforsenate.com?
Well, we do daily updates on all of our events every day. We have, town halls or in-person events, and we're doing so much voter outreach. So I like to send people to @electpaulette, which is a way to access our campaign through Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, because we do directly engage with people on a daily basis there. The website's a good place to stop through. You'll get updates too on our events as well.
Absolutely. And the elections, as you mentioned earlier, coming up really soon now. Are there any, polls that you've seen? Are you feeling optimistic about your chances?
Yeah, as soon as our ad came out showing that I'm a gun owner, I think it really helped people see, that there's some real competition here, and our favorability went up. And so people are now engaging in the race. Of course, whether they're seeing the headlines say COVID spikes or our hospitals are now up to capacity, they're slowly starting to see some of the, the campaign messaging, which is helpful because we do want people to, also shift to voter outreach, because we do need people to understand, who I am as a candidate versus my opposition, and not just vote for the R. They can vote for Trump if they like, but also know that we have a better candidate who's going to be fair to the people, who's going to fight for, agriculture, our business, our communities by and large, protect our people here, who is someone who's honest and has integrity and the ability to work across the aisle. Most importantly, we need a bipartisan leader, not a hyper-partisan representative like we have. And that's going to make the real difference, which is why it's so important that, our ads are getting up and changing conversations. But I've seen some folks, seeing these commercials and respond in a positive way. And I hope that message continues to spread and get out there. So, by November 3rd, we'll have a swell of people turning out to the polls. But we are encouraging people to early vote. In Idaho, we have up until October 30th to early vote. That means they can go into their local polling location or local county courthouse. They can register and vote same day. And that's huge for us in Idaho. So we just want to make sure people take advantage of that. And because you can also register and vote the same day on November 3rd, we want people to take advantage of that too, because we're seeing a swell of people, and this is an unprecedented number. We've had over 400,000 people already request their absentee ballot, and that's by far blown previous records in this state.
Wow, that's incredible, and I hope that I look forward to hearing the results of this election. I think that you're clearly the preferable option for Idaho. So I just wanted to say thank you so much for coming on the podcast today, Paulette. I really appreciated this conversation, and hearing a little bit more about your policy positions and political ideology, what you plan on doing when getting to the Senate, if you in fact do get there. So again, thank you so much for joining the program today. And if anyone is out there watching, in addition to subscribing to the channel, make sure to head on over to pauletteforsenate.com to donate or contribute to Paulette's campaign, to check out more about her and her platform, and to learn more about this senatorial race. Is there anything else you wanted to say before we hang up?
Yeah, we hope people join us in our campaign here. This is a huge movement for us. It's grassroots and directly connected to the people. We're working with refugees, our immigrant population, our Indigenous community, women and youth, college students, everyone. And we want to make sure that people all across this country know that there's a place for them here too. And Idaho needs everybody. So if you can take the time to volunteer and help us get our message out, that would be wonderful. And just know that we're down to the last few days here, and it's going to make a significant difference. But once Idaho's flipped and back into a place of sensibility, this saves a lot of our folks, because we're 50th when it comes to education, women's rights, and how we treat our people, and in all these areas that it's insurmountable. It's overwhelming sometimes, but Idaho is a beautiful place, a beautiful landscape, and we want to protect it the best way possible. So I want to say, just keep up the good work, Gavin. Thank you so much for this opportunity. And again, we welcome everyone here in Idaho to help us in this movement and help our state. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Have a great one.